Hi, this is Slyvia Gina Hunt, back with Self-Talk, and part two, speaking with Miss Julienne Jack. So interesting, so powerful and profound, and we're discussing her mom, and we're going to get right back to it right now.
Gina, thank you for having this interview.
Oh, thank you. I'm so privileged. No words to say how interesting this segment has been. So we're going to continue for the whole world to hear this.
Well, this is my mom's life and my life.
Yes.
You asked how was she as a tomboy. My mom was, she was the one that cleaned the guns when my grandfather and my uncles went hunting. Where Willowbrook Mall is now, used to be the hunting ground for deer, bear, and pheasant, and turkey. And now they have a huge mall up there. And you just have to imagine that my grandfather would go out. He had 3 children and a wife to provide food for. And they didn't have grocery stores like we have today.
I see.
So he would go out and come back with a bear or a deer and actually do the butchering or take it to the butcher in town in Montclair.
Okay.
And then it would come back as packaged meat. But that was how the world was in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. And so Mom was the kind of woman who, as I told you, she was a tomboy.
Okay.
She would clean the guns. She could shoot. She could throw knives. She was an archer.
Archery.
Yes. And
amazing.
At one time, she had a job in a shoemaker shop because my grandfather had a shoemaker business. And when he turned it over to somebody else, sold it to someone else, she got the job as a temporary cashier. And this man came in with a gun and said, "Give me your cash." And she said, "I suggest you leave because I have a handgun pointed at your navel and I'll blow you a new one." He dropped his gun and left. She's the type of woman, when she was a little girl, she had long red hair.
Okay.
In fact, my 2 uncles and my mom were known as the Carrot Top Kids in Montclair.
Okay, Carrot Top Kids. Okay.
They had bright red hair.
Okay.
And she had long braids. But the kid behind her thought it was so nice to dip her hair in the inkwell because they were still using pens and dipping it in the ink and writing. And so she would get a spanking for trying to dye her hair by dipping her braid in the ink. So she went home for lunch and saw this garden snake lying on a rock sunning itself. She picked up the garden snake, put it in a mayonnaise jar, punched holes in the lid of the mayonnaise jar, and her mother said, "Elmira, what are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, nothing, just found the snake that I want to take back to school." So she punched these holes in the top, took the snake back to school and told all of her friends to crowd around this little boy, the boy that was dyeing her hair. The bell rang. They all crowded around him. She walked up to him and said, "Now, you've got to stop trying to dye my hair." And so you'll remember, she dropped the snake between his long johns and his skin. And the kid danced all over the place trying to get this snake out. Then he rolled on the ground trying to get this snake out because, of course, the long johns had the cuffs and the arms were down to the sleeves. So there was no way for the snake to get out. And the teacher, they all separated when the teacher came over to see what the ruckus was. And here's this kid laying on the ground, rolling around, trying to get the snake out. The teacher gave him 20 minutes to go home, wash up, change his clothes, and be back at the school grounds. Because he had done everything that his body could do to try and get this snake out. Mother was not the kind of woman you played with.
Okay, I can see. I know the boy, poor boy, had to be scared. Yeah,
Yes.
and he didn't bother her anymore either. But he learned about bullying and bothering.
Yeah.
So
no more bullying for him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things that my mother did throughout her childhood that made her the strong woman she was. And when it came to the things that we faced later in life, once my father was elected borough president of Manhattan, he faced adversity that he hadn't expected.
And your mom too? What did your mom do to kind of...
My mother was the strength behind the man.
Okay.
There were many incidences that, as you say now or you see now, there are details with politicians.
Details, absolutely.
And the details are the bodyguards. We didn't have bodyguards. In those days, you had a chauffeur, and that was it. That was all that was provided from the city for the major politicians.
Okay.
I grew up, and my grandfather and my youngest uncle, my two uncles, decided I needed to learn how to protect myself. And they found that I had the same abilities, the same sixth senses that my mother had. I don't have to see you to hit you. I have thrown things at people who were behind me because I sounded out where they were and hit them.
Okay.
This is something that was instrumental in my learning how to throw knives, throw anything that I could see, and I don't see a plate or a champagne glass or anything as a one item.
Right.
I see it as a weapon.
Well, of course it could be.
And
yeah.
I have hit people with champagne glasses, and I've hit people with whiteout bottles, and didn't have to look at them. I can sound you out. And as my youngest uncle said, "Hey, Dad, she's just like Myra was." And every time he popped up, I would hit him. And being a former military man, he knew all the maneuvers. And he played all the games. And I was but 3 years old at that time. I still have the ability now. People don't understand that. My mother had to school me in not using those types of protective experiences later in life, unless I was truly in harm's way.
Well, surely. Consciously, you wouldn't want to hurt anybody unless it was absolutely necessary anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Of course, you're taking after your mom. She would only protect her family and,
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Although she did throw a fork at my uncle.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? Why would you do that?
Because they were having a fight. You know sibling fights.
Oh, well, true.
And the fork stuck in the door jamb and shimmied. To say the least, she won that one.
Yeah, he said, "I'm getting away from you, crazy woman." That's what my brother would say.
Because he was in his stepmother's kitchen at the time. She said, Mom, look what she's doing. And her stepmother said, "And you were bothering her, weren't you, Oscar?" So the lessons were well learned. But yes, Mother was there through every unfortunate and wonderful moment in my father's political career. She was the woman behind the man in all situations, and oftentimes the one who spanked me for doing something I hadn't ought to.
Oh, so she was also
the disciplinarian?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Daddy's little girl, so Daddy never did anything.
No, in political business, your children and your family are your Achilles heel.
I see.
So growing up, I knew that I could be kidnapped at any time and held for either ransom or for a turn of a vote. So I was
Extremely
very
cautious.
close to my mother.
Yeah.
And
But
very...
she protected you because she
Yes.
knew how to shoot and throw knives. And, I mean, you know.
Mother would have done anything
Set
to
timers on
protect
bombs.
me.
That,
No,
everything.
timings on bombs was my uncle.
Oh, okay.
The other things, she didn't carry a gun.
Okay.
She didn't carry a knife.
Because she could have got a license being, you know.
But in those days, no.
No.
Because she was a woman, number one.
Okay.
Number two, she was an African American,
Okay.
and she would not have been able to get a weapon permit unless they thought she was constantly in danger.
I see.
They would have preferred that...
For your dad to have it.
No,
to
my
have a-
father
to
would.
have a
My
gun.
father was not. If you gave my father a gun, he would probably blow his own foot off.
What do you mean, clumsy? What do you mean by
My-
when you say that? What do you mean?
My father was the type of man that politics was his be-all, end-all.
Okay.
If you, as I had, asked him for a Phillips head screwdriver, he came back with a flathead and said, "Who's Philip and why should I bring him?"
I see.
He
So
was
he wasn't
not-
good with his hands like your mom.
No.
It was your
no.
mom that was
My
active.
mom was the tool person.
Okay.
She was the one that went to Home Depot with, that I went to Home Depot with.
Okay.
Or the tool store in the old days before Home Depot. We were the ones that went to the hardware store. Don't send my father. He'll come back with something totally different.
I see.
And it will be 2 or 3 hours later because he had political conversation with the guy at the store.
Okay.
So you
I
don't,
see.
he was not the person to send.
Okay.
Mother was the all-around fix-it, and if she couldn't fix it, then she got a professional who would fix it. But yeah, no, he was not reliable in that aspect. Mom was the one who put up the shelves in my bedroom. When I came back from college, my room had shelves, one full wall in a corner.
Okay.
But she was the one who put them up.
Oh, okay. I got you.
He was the one that held the
Things in place while she
while she used
right,
the
so
drill.
they worked together. Yeah.
He didn't do the drill.
Okay.
Because if he had a tool, if he had a tool in his hand, he was going to help you, but he was going to hurt you.
Okay.
If it was an electric tool, he was going to run further and faster because he's going to help you even more.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
Mom was the one who drove the car. Dad didn't drive.
Really?
My father was not. No. No. His attitude about driving was he wanted a car that he could tell it where to go and he could turn around and talk to the people in the car. He was not a driver. He tried to get on the Major Deegan by going over the overpass. Oh.
Wow. I
Yeah.
know that. That
I
scared
was
your
sitting-
mom to death. Was your mom there too?
She was sitting in the passenger seat and she stuck her heel into his foot because she put her foot on the gas, on the brake, and his foot was still on the gas. And she put both feet on the other side and put her foot on the brake while she hit him with the other foot trying to get his foot off the gas.
Wow.
And I was sitting in the
That was
back
a close
seat
call.
knitting.
That was a close call.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was not a driver. He was a politician. So, I mean, those are the things that most people don't know about my family.
Mm-hmm.
But we had family vacations.
Okay.
There's a picture of my mother and I on vacation in Massachusetts.
Okay.
My father joined us on the weekends
Okay.
because he had to be here for his Monday and Thursday political night and for meetings that he had during the day.
Okay.
So it was a different life. Mom had friends who didn't understand how her life really was
Okay.
and how my life growing up was. My life was quite different than most people.
But her performing and singing, did that inspire her? Did that keep her in the mellow times, in the times like when your dad would be working? Would she sing you songs? Would she tell you, that thing, that's those special things that we do, that the creative part of us, the deep part?
Well, there were some times where she got to express herself in music.
Okay.
She did, as I remember, we went to Nat King Cole's apartment, and she did a tape. She did a reel-to-reel with Nat King Cole, with him playing the piano and her singing.
Amazing.
We went to several times. We went to Atlantic Beach's nightclubs with Mike Simon and Alice Simon.
Okay.
And I sat ringside. I saw the Rat Pack several times as a child.
Frank Sinatra.
Dean Martin, Sammy Davis.
Do you know those are collectibles? Did you take pictures? Were you taking pictures at any of the times?
I wasn't. We had photographers that were around.
Okay.
And we would go to Alice's house out in Atlantic Beach, Long Island, every couple of weekends.
Wow.
And there's a picture out there of a little girl standing between two standard-size Airedales. That's me.
Wow.
Looking out at the Atlantic Ocean,
Mm-hmm.
in a berth for a boat where you'd actually drive up and push your boat down to the water. That was next door to Alice Simon, and that was me.
Wow. The history that your mom shared with you and did with you, that's just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
We had a lifestyle that others envied, and children that I grew up with after my father lost the borough presidency never understood.
Well, he served, 2 terms, right? I think
He served 2 terms, but he was ousted on a technical pretext
I see.
that
Politics.
it was politics.
Yeah.
All politics.
Not necessarily, nothing true about it, but just
It was not a true situation.
Okay.
I will say that the first situation was they tried to get my father on conflict of interest for the apartment that we lived in, having it renovated. That ended in 2 hung juries.
Okay.
The third time, his lawyer that did his taxes cooked the books for 7 years to provide the reason for tax evasion. And this was something that he was warned about. The real reason they wanted my father out of the borough presidency is because he would not sign over the power of Manhattan, of his office, to Bob Wagner, the mayor. And there were 2 other boroughs that held out with him. And to make a
conspiracy.
It was a conspiracy.
Absolutely.
And to make him the sacrificial lamb, they took him to court for tax evasion. And they told him they would not put him in prison if he gave up the borough presidency. So that's why my father gave up the borough presidency.
Wow.
And the Speaker of the Assembly, Stanley Steingart, was a good friend of the family and a great friend to my father. He talked him into going back to the Assembly after that debacle. And because my father spent 6 months getting dressed and sitting in Central Park with nowhere to go. He was so depressed.
Devastated from
his political...
and make it up lies is one thing if it was something that was true, but then for people to just make up things, and probably because of the same reasons that go on, these days anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that if it's going on today, so it certainly was going on way
It's gone on since 2 men were on the same planet. It's constant Homo sapien rivalry.
Yeah.
And it goes on forever. It'll go on forever. My mother lost all of her friends. In fact, at this point in her life, no one would go out with her, not even my mother's sister-in-law would go out with her to simply go to the department stores.
For fear, or what?
They were afraid to be seen with her. I was 7 years old, and I said, I'll be with you forever, Mother. I'll be with you for the rest of your life. And I took care of her until she returned to her parents in 2014.
What a long, beautiful life. So you've been with
the last 15 years, Alzheimer's ravaged her body and her mental state. And there is a picture of her with the two of us when I was a very small infant.
Mm-hmm.
And then up in the corner is the two of us in 2006 when she was being ravaged by Alzheimer's. So I took much of my life I spent with her. I did go away to college. I did have a life. I lived in other boroughs for a while. But when things got tough, I went home and took care of my mom.
Which is absolutely the same. I mean, I would do it. You know, not everybody would do it, but I would. And you know, there's a lot of us that will. You know, particularly since Mother's Day is here, and so, you know, mothers are so precious. You know,
yes.
It's just some,
you only get one, and when that's gone, you have none.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the truth. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I wouldn't wish them to not have their mom or dad. Not ever.
Yes.
So that is the truth. So I really understand exactly what you're talking about, and you know how wonderful, you know, your life is, and
yes,
how many blessings you will receive because of your very gracious and noble deeds. You know.
Well, my mother had a heart. She wanted lots of children. I think she wanted 6. She raised my brother, and she had one child. I was a twin, and my twin died at birth. So I was her only child. She had one more pregnancy after our birth, and that one was another miscarriage. She had 5 miscarriages altogether.
Wow.
She was very happy to have me. She raised me. She was friends with all of my friends and with their parents, with their mothers.
Of course.
Which I didn't know how good friends, how great her friendship was with my friends and their mothers until I went away to college. And I couldn't get her on the phone. And then also when my friends were working with their mothers who were going through illnesses and eventually dying, I didn't know that my mother had had such a good relationship with these other mothers.
Helping them along.
Helping them along.
Helping your friends along.
Helping my friends along. My parents gave out letters of reference to all my friends for their jobs in Woolworth, for their jobs in hospitals as candy stripers. I never knew this. Every year when it came to the summertime, my mother would say to my father, some of Joel's friends need reference letters. Can you put them together for them? And they would do reference letters for my friends. I have friends who are now nurses who help me with my mom and help me to get through my mother's devastating illness with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it is devastating.
And yeah.
And it's something that's really, it's something that's, you know, you really got to, and I got to condemn to you because you're very strong, because it's something you really have to have a lot of inner strength for to just really proceed.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know,
and one of the things that I found so horrific about Alzheimer's is that it kills the cells that remember the things that you and your mother learned, that you were taught by your mom. I gave my mom a chocolate rugelach. She said, "What's this?" And I said, what do you mean, what's this? You taught me to love chocolate regular. And now you don't remember it?
Yeah. And chocolate is something that I really love. My mom loved candies and sweets. And, thank you so much, because, your mom, she really is a part of history. I really hope that our conversation today and us giving her the honor that she deserves, and make no mistake about it, this is Mother's Day weekend. And the fact that we picked your mom, I am so proud. I can't even tell you. And so much information and so much love, just in the quality in your voice, so proud, and, history too, and so much history that it's just amazing. We're going to have to do it again. Maybe we're going to have to make a little short movie. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we're going to do a movie. But definitely we're going to get to some type of book. And I can't thank you enough. Everybody, this is Julienne Jack. The story about her mom has been phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Gina.
No, thank you. From the
Thank
bottom
you.
of my heart. And thank you all for listening. And hope you enjoyed.
B.E.A.T